Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Robyn and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapters 7 through 9.
Before we can get into what's going to happen in today's episode, we want to talk a little bit about what happened previously on Wizard Team. And what happened was, Mama Peters popped up and she was ready with a pep talk for them feeling weary and downtrodden. But that also came at the cost of her taking the sacrifice for the team and having her memory wiped so that her kids could continue to try to save the world without her being used as a weapon against them. This makes Amari sad. And right before she can process, how deeply this is affecting her, she's put into a dream state as she goes to sleep, where she sees the League of Magicians. And when she's there, she has some embarrassing moments, but enough to include her in understanding that the League of Magicians isn't as united as they may initially seem, because there are some supporters of her, including someone who helped her get out of a sticky situation while there. Dylan, that book, we need to talk about Kevin, or like in the movie too. I think they need to make that up. Like, if this were the Dylan show, that would be what this is, because he's been failed by his mama, his daddy, the whole bureau, the granddad, all down the family line for him, and including the magicians that he's been interacting with, Cosmo and Moreau, because how he's moving and how he's talking are some very messed up, the world is mine, it's ours, quote unquote, but it's really his kind of life. And it's really sad and disheartening to see and scary. So props to Amari for getting out of the situation when she could, but this is not looking well for Dylan's life. And on the way of Amari and company getting themselves into a place where they could be hopefully safe, they are led on a freaking car chase. And their poor rideshare driver has to give over control to Amari and Quinton as they use digital means to avoid the EMP that the freaking bureau agents are sending their way. And right whenever they get to the safe zone, his last sight is a Cyclops. What a day for him.
I'm glad that we'll get to it immediately, but that Uber driver gets a good tip, because my God. And then, I don't know, I hope that there's something, because they take memories away, right? We just saw this with Mama Peters. It's about to happen again with this poor Uber driver. I hope there's something that lingers, even if they don't, we saw them kind of embed thoughts or compulsions into Mama Peters to go visit her friend, and to change the subject if anyone asks about children. And I hope that there's just something innately in your brain that is I'm gonna, instead of doing Uber, I'm gonna switch over to Postal or a Postmates or DoorDash. I just don't want people in my car anymore. I don't know why. I just have this feeling that I don't want to drive Uber. I hope that happens for that Uber driver.
I'm of two minds about it. I would love for this to be his supernatural awakening, where he becomes suspicious of things. Maybe he has
he becomes a watcher.
Yeah, or no, not even that. Maybe he just has the site, the whatever site, or whatever. Yeah. Now, and he's just looking around and being like, this isn't the world I woke up to yesterday. What's up? But I don't want him to be traumatized. So I love that he gets compensated, but I wish there were another means for him to continue to have awareness of what's around him now that he's been exposed to it.
Seriously. Okay. So we're gonna start on chapter 7. I also want to say that I missed last recording, and then the universe took me out. So I'm better. Not 100%, but I'm better But in case there's a lot of like pauses and I still have brain fog. Like my brain still is not. This flu ain't no joke, y'all. Go get your flu shots. Put on your mask. Stay away from children because they're disgusting. Disgusting. Okay? And if you have children, I'm sorry, but your kids are gross. Wear a mask in the house at all times. Because that flu, and I'm saying it's the flu, but I'm still not 100% convinced. Because my test said it wasn't COVID. But whatever that was, woo, Chile. Okay. Warning over. Chapter 7. So Mr. Cyclops I love that his name is just Mr. Cyclops, by the way. I'm assuming he has like an actual government name, like his last name is not Cyclops, but like Amari is a well brought up Southern lady, and so Mr. Cyclops puts holographic lights on the Uber, and so it projects an ambulance, and then he adds like a box for sirens. So they get to their destination in record time, and it is the Chamberlain Manor. And Quinton promises their poor Uber driver brave season tickets, but either before or after they took his memories. He won't know why he's getting the season tickets, but he knows that they're coming. And then they join a tour for the manor, hoping to blend in with the crowd. The manor gives me like it's like a historical site, right? And so when you look at it, it's like almost like a castle, but like half of it is like ruins, like from a fire. So as they're joining the tour, Amari is looking around and she sees the boy that she had literally run into in the League of Magicians meeting, waving at her to like come to him. But before she can join him, he sees something and then disappears. So then Amari is like, what is going on? She still hasn't been able to talk to like Elsie or anyone about that wakeful dream. So she's still like, is this all in my head? Am I going crazy? But this seems so real. And like, why is he following me around? And like we talked about before, this is all happening. Like, it's been a day since, like, she's had no time to process. So Quinton calls the kids over, and then they like kind of sneak away from the tour group and go into the woods where towards the more burned side of the manor, where they are welcomed by the Chamberlain family. And there finds out that they're a family of ghosts, and that this hideout is a house of horrors. So while Amari on one hand is like, I ain't trying to stay here, Elsie is like, well, this is brilliant of Quinton because nobody's trying to come here. Like, it's like a house of horrors, or like licenses to terrorize. Any creatures that are able to can just like go and terrorize until their hearts are content. And the house.
It's so funny having read this book before, how Peekaboo in my mind, just reading it, I'm just like, oh, I'm not thinking anything about it. But now after the Kendrick like album hitting, like Peekaboo just like hits different, and I'm just like Peekaboo. Every time you say it, I'm just like starting hearing the song in my head from Kendrick.
Your subconscious is ready for the Super Bowl. Yeah. So my questions about this whole thing is basically, I boiled it down because, you know, we're on a time crunch, to two main questions. One, like, how are they going to get the Uber? Did they just, when they got dropped off, did they take all the projected lights and stuff off the Uber? Did he teach them how to do that? It feels like it was a whole process to get it on. And then what? They just like dismantle it? Does the Uber driver, is he just still rolling around and everyone thinks he's in an ambulance? And in that vein, like, is there like a pimp my ride type of thing on the otherworld like TV shows where someone like Mr. Cyclops is just like going ham, because that is amazing. It is such a good like one like camouflage or whatever. You like people with their like burner phones and all of like all the little things they use to like not get around, but to just like change your car into something else, and like the known world and magical world are all like convinced by this basically holographic shell skin that he puts on it.
Yeah, I'm like thinking about it the same way. I think about like the drone usage in Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's just like a projection around the vehicle, and they can probably just take the projector out, or just like, they probably just take the projector out whenever they're done with it. But I do like the idea of a Pimp My Ride in that supernatural world. But it's just like the Cyclops' like cousin or something, or like somebody like a little bit of enough degrees removed where he continues to do his criminal enterprise and not be too close to getting,
Right.
Quinton's nice to him. Other agents may not be so nice. So,
and then it's also just like
a lid on things.
They don't need to know all the things we can do. We don't need to like. You're right.
Don't question the possibilities.
Right. And then my other thing
right here
is like we hear about all of, like, so basically they say that like the Chamberlain Manor, after they had this like tragic fire and the family perished, whatever, it was gifted to the city of Atlanta, and they're like, it just seems fraught. It kind of reminds me of like historical homes and stuff like that, where you have like, they become like a part of the parks department, I guess, and then you can like, people will go on tours of them or whatever. They become like a museum, and that's what it seems like this is what happened with Chamberlain Manor. But then that also means to me that there would be a lot more security, especially in a place where it's like next to the woods. It just feels fraught for children and teenagers to like try shenanigans. And so while I do understand like the idea that like people in the supernatural world aren't going to be spending a bunch of time going to this house of horrors, is there also something that about it being a house of horrors that makes the known worlders kind of not not do the same things that you would do with like another museum? You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like they're in this tour and then they like sneak over to the woods in a way that like when I read it, I was like, I'm sure like every school trip, field trip, high schoolers has like a group every single tour that is like, oh, let's cut through here and get into some nonsense. And which means to me that there would be extra security or something. It seemed too easy. And so that was my other thing, was just like, I understand the idea. I just want to know the House of Horrors like parameters. That is it, like perception filters where you're just like, oh, I like every time you're like, oh, I'm gonna go this way, and then something is like, oh, changes your mind or like makes you think like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I'm wondering if that's what they have set up for them, or I don't know what, because it also feels like the whole point of like to terrorize people is that you would want people to go to terrorize, right? Like that the malevolent forces that make it a house of horrors would want to attract people, so they would have people to scare and terrorize.
One, I'm choosing to assume that because Mrs. Chamberlain invited them there, that like whatever security measures that they would usually have in place have been disabled to let them through. Two, I hear you on like they would want as many people to scare as possible, but I feel like that is of supernatural worlders, of not of known worlders. So I'm sure there's probably those filters, like you're saying, but also there's probably like again, they probably disabled what they would usually have for most people to like advance towards,
like knowing they're showing up at any
to
time,
allow
so they
the
just kind of
invited guests to
okay.
come through.
Because I'm like, I personally am not going anywhere near a haunted or something called a house of horrors if I'm like a supernatural worlder. But then I'm like, but then who are they horrifying? Who are they terrorizing?
The people who like to be horrified, the people who are like, oh my god, like this is amazing. We're gonna get into
it's very
it, but
Addams
like
Family.
I'm
but
like this is very
this is
like, I can see
okay.
it.
The more we talk, I'm like, this is the reason why you read horrors and I run far, far away from them. There's like a different personality type. Not everyone is me. Not everyone is a scaredy cat.
Yeah, I mean, and as no, we are on it. I'm like, we're gonna know because this is when we talk about so their house. The fact that like they're walking on a floor and it's a floorway into nothingness, like Wednesday Addams is so freaking jealous. Like she is like, excuse me, Morticia and Gomez would pay whatever money they could to have that available. Like you can just walk on the floor.
You could fall into a black hole on the stairs.
Sign them up, and I could see it. And I like it, and it's just, girl, you never seen one before. Like so unbothered about it. I love it so much. Mrs. Chamberlain continues to be annoyed at Mr. Chamberlain for not like wanting to pay for her
Even
to also come
work.
be paid back to the dead. And then also Peekaboo and then Peekaboo wanting to be just like his grip of a father. Like whenever his mother's like, you're being just like your father, and he's like, really? Like it's just so cute. And it gives very much what is his name? I always forget the brother's name because
girl. And I know the Addams Family is not scary, but it was scary adjacent, so I don't know.
Pugsley.
What a name.
I feel like Pugsley, like he's very quiet in the cut, because Wednesday steals the show. But if you ask them who he wants to be like, it would probably be somewhere between Wednesday and his father, Gomez. So I just love it. I think it gives us like it's somewhere between Casper, the 1995 movie, and Addams Family to me.
Yes.
Christina
Ricci is living for the Chamberlain Manor. Yes.
Yeah.
I literally was like picturing her as Mrs. Chamberlain, like an adult Christina Ricci.
Look, don't let us dream cast because we're gonna cast this all the way through. And we're probably on point with what BB has in mind too. He'd be like, yeah, you probably give us a winky nod, like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down. Me too. I also like, okay, so the whimsy here is just to die for. Like, Di-Fi. Di-Fi only, so it's Wi-Fi for dead electronics. And you have to like go out of your way to have dead electronics because it just won't work.
But it's like, it's not even that you have to go out of your way. It's that like it's exclusive.
Yeah.
Like it's like not all the girlies get access to Di-Fi. Like it's like you might have a broken thing, but it doesn't mean that you're eligible to have that Di-Fi access. Like you have to be like specific about, like it's only available for specific needs.
It's just ugh. And then like, so when we meet Mrs. Chamberlain, Quinton is like the peach of Atlanta. She's got flame, like she's like literally still the flames from dying in a fire, like her horrific death, being burned to death.
And it's not just on her face. They're not just flames on her face. They're flames
everywhere
on her body.
Jaden is like, does this hurt? She's like, no, not no more.
She's like, not as much as
not as much, right? Not as much as it used to.
She probably, at this point, again, very Morticia, she probably gets pleasure.
Oh yeah.
She's like, oh, this is just like the tickling kind of flame, you know?
Keep things interesting.
As it does.
So the peach of Atlanta, the roasted peach, the grilled peach of Atlanta, is a star of the Real Housewives from Beyond the Grave. This is I said this is Pulitzer worthy whimsy here. Like, this is top notch. Because in my brain, like, right, so we're all like, this is Adam's Family, whatever. But the fact that, like, undoubtedly, I'm sorry, fight your mama, I don't care. Undoubtedly the best franchise of the Housewives is Atlanta, and has been since they started, really. They just really came out the gate and just...
Who else? Look, don't make me start using Beyonce lyrics to describe something else at the time. But who else is memes are used anywhere near as much as the memes that have come out of the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise? I'll wait. Maybe Tiffany Pollard.
Maybe. And just, like, banger on banger on banger, too, of, like, not only memes, but, like, Who Go Check Me Boo is, like, in the cultural lexicon. Like, I say that to the point where, like, it's almost divorced from, like, where it came from, right? Bye Wig.
Bye Ashy.
Oh, a white refrigerator. Let's get you a home.
Girl, not a white refrigerator. No, the ghetto.
Like, we gotta get you a home. It's just, like, it immediately puts you in this frame of mind. Like, those the Real Housewives from Beyond the Grave, and you're like, I know this woman. I know exactly
Can I just say
what this is.
I live for all of this, as, like, everyone knows about how I live for the Real Housewives at this point, hopefully. Specifically Atlanta and sometimes Potomac and sometimes some of the other ones that I used to be on. But for me, I love it all. For me, it's I was a little like, this is going on a level of, like, this is interesting, like, the monstrousness of it, because when we first see the Chamberlains and, like, Mr. Chamberlain is being ornery and is, like, annoyed about them being there, Mr. Chamberlain makes a point to be like, you would think he would be happy to have, like, the people, like, someone who saved our son, when another cast member of the freaking Housewives Beyond the Grave kidnapped Peekaboo, their son, and Quinton had to get him back. So a typical, because, like, we know the dramatics of the Real Housewives women, okay? But a typical dramatic for a Real Housewoman of the Beyond the Grave is to kidnap someone else's child because her party was less attended than the other woman's party. You know what I mean?
But it
like,
also,
that is a level
like,
of monstrosity and dramatics that is well beyond what anyone in the like regular world franchise would ever do.
But it also then, like, makes Mr. Chamberlain, like, very much like, oh, I know that husband. The husband that, like, sees someone coming in the house and is like, ugh, like, why is you here? Like, just like, I'm here under duress. Like, the cameras are here. Every time, like, the drama is happening, and in like, the husband's brain, you can see them being like, remember the check, remember the check, remember the check. Like, they don't want to actually do it, but they know what they signed up for and what it does for them, right? So they just, like, sit there and suffer. And so then he's, like, sitting behind her growling as these people come into his house.
When she threw a shoe at him, it felt very George Bush. I was like, this man is giving George Bush vibes.
But it is so just, like, immediate. Like, they said that, and I said, oh, I know these people. I know exactly what to expect. And because they've read this before, like, they don't disappoint. Like, especially her. She does not disappoint. She is probably the Nene. The Nene Leakes of the franchise, okay? The Grand Dame.
She's a mix. She's definitely a mix of a couple different ones. Like, in my brain, when I read her, I'm like, oh, she's this one, and this one. She's a little. But
you just know that Erg is just full of gifts of this woman. Like, she's got her own catchphrases. She's got a couple of product lines out.
She's got an assistant.
She's got an assistant. She got a stylist. Her new line of joggers is coming out in the fall, late fall, maybe the spring. Okay.
I want Mrs. Chamberlain's. I want to move forward, but I do also want to know Miss Chamberlain's take on like Katniss Everdeen's dress. Like, was she just like, excuse the F out of me? Like, they are really being disrespectful. Like, they can't even. How dare they?
She stole my whole flow.
Like, not, but like, it's so human. It's so like, that's no my imagination. Mm-hmm. Like, oof. Come consult me first, girl. What's wrong? Ooh.
Everybody want to be me, but nobody can be me. She said when she saw Katniss's dress. Okay, so this chapter in particular, like, it's just basically like getting us from one spot to another spot, but it does so with the whimsy that, like, B.B. Austin I come to expect now. Just an elevated level of nonsense and fun.
So when we do MVP, B.B. needs to know that he's always MVP.
Always.
Perpetually. Until he's not later this book. But he's always MVP.
She said, until you know what you did.
You know it.
I appreciate you until I don't. Yeah.
And even then, begrudgingly, I'm like, I get it. But, oof.
At what cost?
Yes.
You know? Greatness, but...
I thought you liked us, but I mean, I guess not. I mean, it's
cool. When I tell you I'm so over these authors hurting my feelings on purpose and being gleeful about it. I'm over y'all. Do better. But don't, because I'm sure whatever your better is...
Do what you do
is gonna hurt even more. Stay where you're.
Stay with the rivers and the
lakes that I'm used to. Oh. All right, so chapter 8. Oh wait. Last thing. Dylan is a child, and not only a child, like literally. But he's a specific sort of child, and I'm coaching 10 and unders, and I know that he's older than 10. I'm coaching 10 and unders in basketball, and there is this like way in which kids around this age get an attitude that just make me as an adult immediately be like, go to your room, go sit. Like, it just stirring. I don't have children. Thank God. That's not where.
Every day I praise him for that.
You know?
Yes.
It's just not. I wasn't meant to. Mm-mm. But, I do my part. And I try. It takes a
village. Way more than I think I could ever do.
Oh, man. Every time I realize that I volunteered to be shepherding children and to becoming better people, I'm just like, why? Why did I do this to myself? But there is this like level of entitlement and brattiness in his delivery. And I just keep going back to that meeting where like all of these grown ass magicians, and like he even looks at Cosmo and he's like, some of y'all have been here hundreds of years. Y'all were in like the ancient war. And I'm looking at Cosmo to this day. I'm still mad about it because I'm like, why did you put the children in charge? Like, we're anxious to put the children in charge. And this boy is such a child. Such a brat. Even his demands, even what he's showing, I'm literally like, he wants you to be afraid. And like, what is he going to do? And I am seeing a child having a temper tantrum and throwing stuff at their parents while me, non-childless person, is like sitting like a couple seats away at the airport being like, if you don't beat the shit out of, like, not that corporal punishment is the answer, but you know what I mean? Like, if you don't parent this child,
snatch them up.
Snatch them.
Do them like what a grandmama would have did in the church. Snatch them. Just snatch them. Just snatch them.
Just get the ear and take them back with you. And so every time I'm just confused. I'm confused as to how this is your king.
Look, I talked about it in the brief, like the recap. Like, everybody's felt this kid, and I'm tired.
This is a child who has never known a consequence.
It's like, how does it feel knowing that everyone that you've ever associated with as an adult is a loser?
And I just
hate to see it.
Ugh, okay, chapter 8. But again, every time, and this is like the thing where we talk about, and we'll get there longer and stuff like this, about redemptions and like people wanting, like, and I think BB said it in our midnight release party too, of like, sometimes people do things. Turn on the freaking news right now, okay? Sometimes people are too far gone. And I was of the mind at the end of the Great Game of like, okay, this boy has done some terrible stuff, but like Quinton has woken up and maybe we're about to see some self-reflection, some, you know what I mean? Like, people, like, adults can fail you all you want, but then at a certain time, like, personal responsibility kicks in, like a sense of morality, a sense of like, okay, the things that I've been doing aren't working and maybe I need to like reevaluate. That's gone. That's over. That's done. This child, I don't care how old this child is, sightless depth, go.
Like, so that's the thing though, because I feel like part of the reason why Dylan is the way he is, like the last step was
putting him in a sightless step. Yeah.
Like, because I feel like before the sightless steps, that was a kid that may have been able to like, and I'm not saying this about like juvenile detention in general or detention in general, but I do think that the system is created to make criminals, not to rehabilitate criminals.
I agree.
And so on that matter, and I'm gonna keep it there.
Abolish prisons, but keep one for that boy.
There's certain people who shouldn't be around people, and they know they shouldn't be around people.
This is what I mean. I don't want to say this like Australia was a good idea because people lived there. Colonizers were doing the most, but something like it.
I don't know if that's the answer.
It's not the answer, but just get him out of my face. Okay?
I mean, but that's happening when they're being imprisoned, so.
This is true. But not all. This is what I'm saying. Like I said.
Like, it's going right wing right now in this podcast, and I'm like, ooh.
Like I said, the end of the Great Game, I could see a path for it, but right now, there is an answer. I'm just too tired to find it. Maybe one of y'all can find the answer and let us know, but chapter 8.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the independent bookstores.
With our bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/BlackNerdsCreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves!
Oh, that's nice. That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Whew. So they have seen Dylan destroy Pemberley House, and Elsie and Amari ask Peekaboo to take them to the basement so that they can tell Quinton and Jaden about his latest.
I'm sorry, Peekaboo.
Peekaboo.
I'm gonna keep.
And what was his sister's name? Hold on, let me find.
I'm saying Peekaboo. Like, what are you talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What are you talking about? You talking about nothing? They ain't talking about nothing. What?
Oh, Grammy award-winning Peekaboo.
Not yet. Not like the single. The single won the Grammys.
True.
We haven't gotten to GNX eligibility yet, but next year.
Soon to be. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where we see. No idea. Quinton, Chamberlain Manor. Boohoo! That's his sister's name. His name is Peekaboo, and his sister, who didn't want to stay, she let the light take her. Her name was Boohoo. I love the Chamberlains. They are the main characters.
Family.
And like
they're spooky and they're kooky.
I don't agree with how that woman who kidnapped Peekaboo tried to make herself the main character, but I do think that I understand the impulse of like, I gotta be on like 12 to get the spotlight
to keep
up.
Oh, we didn't talk about it, but I like, because we didn't say, because I feel like if we talked about it, we'd have harked on it a little bit longer. The consolation prize for the rideshare driver being season tickets to his favorite baseball team.
I did say he was leaving in Braves tickets, but I just kind of like skipped over it. Yeah,
okay. So I'm like, as it's a sports day, and I'm like, we didn't hark on the sports very long. Okay.
Baseball. No offense. I personally, I don't know what the Braves got going on, but like, since I've moved back to San Diego and I live walking distance to Petco Park, have really enjoyed baseball games a lot more. Not for the actual baseball being played, but like they got brisket nachos. We got fish tacos.
The atmosphere is kind of fun.
The atmosphere is there, okay?
Yeah.
So
I've been to the Yankee Stadium. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be out my seat. I'm gonna be walking around a little bit, and I'll come back to the seat.
I remember for my mom's birthday one year, we went to a Padres game, and it was like all of us. My grandmother was still alive then. And I was like, oh, I'll just be the person that waits in line. You got to go to the bathroom. I'll wait in line and I'll text you when it's time to come. And then you can like, you want something from the thing, I'll go do that. And then I like sat there and I read. They were mad at me, but I was reading and it was a nice little day out. It was lovely. The sun was shining. I had a beer, had a fish taco. It was a wonderful way to spend the afternoon. So, baseball, sure. I don't know, but I'm assuming that like Atlanta outside. What's Atlanta got? Like they got barbecue. Like, it's the South. They got
it's
food.
The South.
They got
it's
food.
The South.
You know
it's everything. Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's a wonderful consolation prize for being chased and then having to meet a Cyclops.
And then having your memory wiped.
And having your memory wiped. Lovely. So they get to the basement and immediately they see Agent Magnus, and Agent Magnus states that Harlow has to like give fresh doses of mind control every once in a while. Like it does wear off. I think this is going to be very important. But Magnus and a few other agents were able to slip away once they came to their senses because she got a lot going on, okay? The Bureau is on fire. Dylan is out to get her. Like, she trying to take over.
We know that she has a short-range ability. Her ability is not a long-term ability.
Yeah. So she can't, and, she's trying to hold a lot of people. So they were able to slip away. And Magnus was using has some of the same contacts as Quinton, and was using those contacts, and then figured out that Quinton was awake, and was able to track them to where they are. Which, on one hand, I'm like, well, Agent Magnus is also like a super hero agent, so I don't think that anyone would be able to. But on the other hand, I'm like, you got tracked real quick, Quinton. Like, if Magnus was still under mind control, this red flag. But Magnus tells them, or Amari asks about where Fiona is, Agent Fiona is, and Magnus says that Harlow has hidden her and some other folks that she deems useful away. And he is thinking that she's probably hidden somewhere, or like was taken to the same place that Maria was taken to. And Amari argues, or tells them about what Dylan has done, and argues that they need to go after Dylan, but Magnus and Quinton remain focused on Harlow. And I do get that they're like saying, you know, Dylan has the League of Magicians. We also need, like, this little squad is cute.
They need to squabble up.
Yeah, we need numbers. And I think Amari, like, gets it, but is having a hard time accepting it. However, Magnus is more open to Amari helping out than Quinton is, and Quinton orders the kids to stay put. And Amari, like, argues back about this, but Magnus pulls her aside and tries to explain that, like, her and Quinton are much more similar than she is recognizing at this moment, and how difficult it is to, like, willingly let a kid that you have that you feel responsible for and that you care about put themselves in danger. But tells her that there are more ways to be involved than to be out in the field, and tells them, like, you're one of the most gifted junior agents that we've ever seen, and I know that there's a way that you could help analyze the details, look at the bigger picture. You can help while also staying put. And so Amari's like, okay, but also in one ear, out the other. Like,
yeah.
She takes it on a bit.
Yeah. Thoughts on chapter 8, though. I just think that, like, they had just gone, like, Elsie and Amari had just gone through this house and seen the horrors, including the void into nothingness. And as soon as that news clip was over and Dylan was off the screen, they were like, "Oh, we gotta go talk to Quinton and Jaden right now, like, immediately." No, they knew how horrific. They went past herky jerky dolls walking out of a room.
See, them dolls would have been the end for me. Them dolls, I am in can we turn on the Di-Fi? Is there a walkie-talkie? Can we get something going on? I need to talk to.
Can we want to talk to old school? Can we tie one can to a piece of string, another can to a piece of string, and we figure this out? Because
Peekaboo, can you be an owl? Can you can you be a messenger?
Are you Hermes today?
Right.
Can I call you Hermes? Can we do this?
I'm not leaving. Them dolls.
So to me, for winning, for giving out, like, medals, like, you know, that's a medal of courage right there for Amari and Elsie for braving a horror house with, like the official designation, capital H's, for both horror and house. They just going right back through it, just to update them on the news. That is some big bravery right there. Then, so for me, and I alluded to it a minute ago, seeing Magnus in this chapter for the first time in this book, like, the first time was, like, uplifting, like, a familiar face in the midst of everything, an adult that we can trust. Knowing what's going to happen in this book, it doesn't feel the same when I see him here. I feel upset.
Oh my god! Like, so there's a I didn't put this in here, and I really should have, but when he's giving Amari the pep talk, he says it's the job of adults to protect the kids they care about. Nothing comes before that. And I mean nothing. And I said, BB, you raggedy son of a... You low down. You... How dare. Innocuous sentence, you would think. The first time you read it, you're like, oh, that's true, I guess. The foreshadowing, though.
I think the first time around, I associated it with it just being us coming from like Mama Peters doing her big sacrifice. And then so it's like, oh, they're reinforcing. So Amari feels better about this thing that her mom has chosen to do. Sure. And also foreshadow.
Woo!
Oh, I love authors.
I don't. My little niece told me the other day, because I went over there and I was reading, because I'm doing this mystery month challenge. And I also was like reading this and I was like, Amari is a mystery. I'm going to count it. My little niece was like, I don't like to read. And I said, oh, first off, she's 3. She doesn't know how to read. I think that has a lot to do with her not liking to read. But I said, how dare you? In my face like that? Tell me that you hate me. But then this morning I was reading this and I was like, now I make some points.
Some points were made.
Points were made.
Yeah. But you know, she'll get there. We'll
Can
get
I
there
bench? This is a spoiler heavy podcast. If y'all haven't read Despicable Wonders yet, things don't end well for Magnus.
They don't.
B.B.
Nor
Alston
us,
is
in our hearts
is benched for that.
We just said he's perpetual MVP except for this time. That one time.
Nah. He could be both. He contains multitudes. Magnus? That's our dude.
And so when we move the way we move in this episode and going forward, you'll understand why we make the choices we made. On the world, and as it's built by Mr. B.B., the whole dreaming situation, I had a whole moment last episode where I'm like trying to puzzle it out, pull it together, because I have questions. Because now that there's an answer to it, and it's part of, and nobody gets me my feelings, Amani, no one gets me my feelings without my permission. Dreaming's being part of like the high magician repertoire. Like this is something that like Moreau and the Knight brothers had access to. Makes sense. Like why we haven't seen it happen before, why we never seen it mentioned as a possibility when we're hearing about other dream features. But I still need to figure out how that works on the physical sense, because I don't know. Like again, when you're having a dream, you can't feel anything. But Amari feels when she falls and she like stumbles. And she's able to like wear another person's cloak. So it's just like, how are you there physically? It's not astral projection where it's just like your spirit is there. It's like her physical body was present during a dream meet. And then she almost got caught, but then woke up and her body was already in the hotel to be woken up. And I just don't understand how it works. I need the freaking details.
I don't know. I'm going to go with magic.
Sure.
And that
whimsy
and that
magic,
like over superseding physics. But I have the sense that like, so I there's another book, a fantasy book that I read, and there's kind of the same thing, like a dream meet thing, and they feel everything until like to end the meet. Sometimes they'll kill themselves in the dream because you die in the dream, then you wake up, I guess is how it works in that series. But they feel everything that's happening. Magic. I don't know.
I just want details. You can please add them in an addendum to a footnote. It's fine for me. I just need to understand. Okay, and then another note is how clear it is that, like, so, like, I know you have beef with elder siblings and decisions that they make on elder sibling crap. And it's very clear in this chapter, especially how that Quinton is working on the first directive he was ever given by an adult about his younger sibling, which was protect your sibling. And that's what he's doing. So that directive supersedes any other desire that he has around looking at her or using her as an asset. Like, in his mind, he's like, protection of her first, everything else second when it comes to her. And that's what when I was 3 years old, my mama told me, and I've been on that since 3, you know? And so, and also, to his and most other people's credit, who in their right mind would forego protection over joining a fray of messiness?
A child. Someone with a main character
who doesn't
hero
know better.
complex.
He's trying to know better for her. And she's like, no, I don't want you to know better for me. I know better for myself.
She's got main character energy. I think, like, I do understand. I think my thing isn't the protection part. Because I do feel like in this chapter, Quinton is more... He's still dismissive, but he's more communicative about it. But I do think that there is like a... And this is very difficult because Quinton is 23 and Amari is still 14 at this point. 13? 14? 13. She's 13. So it is very difficult to like maintain this because of like she's 13. But this idea of your protection and your duty as an older sibling needing to like rearrange itself to where your sibling is. And I still think that he's looking at her, and I am totally guilty of this. Like, I tell like my little cousins all the time, like, you are 8 years old in my head. I don't care if you turn in 30. Like, you are the age of when I first like recognized your humanity. This sounds weird. Not recognize their humanity, but you know what I mean? When they became like who they are to me.
Your full personality.
Yeah, your full personality. And like, so I do get that. But like, there are also times where, you know, like me and Bayana now, we besties. Like, she is like, I'm 8 years older than her. And I still have like the sense of like, not protection, but yeah, I guess protection. And then like just being like making, like checking, you good? You know what I mean? But then I also like recognize that like that girl is way more competent than me in a lot of ways. In so many ways. And even when she was like, I remember vividly when she was still in high school and her siblings were fighting. And this is when I also knew that like sibling dynamic trump age sometimes, because I was sitting there popcorn eating. I was just letting them go. And this little like 15-year-old stomps in and goes, I don't know why you arguing, because when mommy gets home, and like put them in their place and like stopped the whole thing and then got them going to what they were supposed to do. And I was like, I was enjoying that. How dare you just come in here all competent? You know what I mean? But like at that, I think also at that point too, I was like, oh, Bayana's very, very competent. So I'm going to listen to her. You know what I mean? Like she's not just like, you know, she's not one of the kids. Like, she didn't come in and like keep the argument going. She shut that down with the quickness.
She said absolutely not.
And they both listened to her and they both did what they were supposed to do. I was gonna get there event, like I was gonna stop it, but I was gonna let it do what it do because it was kind of funny. They were in like insulting each other, and it was all entertaining to me at that moment. And so then like I had to be like, okay, she's not just like a kid. Like, I'm not gonna just be like, go do this like I would with like her little siblings at that time, and like, don't ask me why, just go do what I said. You know, I would be able to be like, hey Bayana, let's do this, or what do you think, or you know what I mean, get some give her a little bit more agency. And I think that that's where Quinton is not taking into account that like he needs to give her a little bit more like he's still in charge. He still has to protect her. He's still gonna like push come to shove. No, you staying here, but like give her a little bit more leeway, a little bit more.
His software, his elder brother or software update hasn't
kicked in yet. Exactly.
Yeah, that's that coma put him out, and he's still getting his body together. He's still
what was she 10 when he went to sleep? She's still 10, and 10 and 13 is not vastly different when you're an adult, but it is
when you're 13. It is,
and when you've dealt with like losing your brother and going like like she's lived, like we've talked about, she's lived and she's had a lot of experiences that he needs to acknowledge and take into account. That's my only thing. Not the protection part, just the like acknowledge that she's growing up.
And while we're on Quinton, my final note for this chapter is how much I'm entirely over Quinton and Magnus being so buttoned up in like men of the bureau. Like, like, okay, I get the like emotional ties to, okay, like I want to get like my love, my partner secured before I make any other moves. But like, and the priorities are set, cool. Here's my thing. And maybe this is why if I ever date a man who's in law enforcement, may this clip come back to haunt me. I don't see it, but if it ever happens, may this clip come back to haunt me. But I can't be for it. I can't do it. You want to work the system, the same system that you barely got out with your ability to be yourself with, because there's a person in there mind controlling people. When you use that same system to get out a bunch of people who have also been mind controlled in order to try to save the world from magicians who do not care about your morality and your codes and your infrastructure and your policy and your blah, blah, blah. You want to use those policy freaking agent details, blah, 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 to go against them? I don't think you're getting the task at hand here. Like, and I understand the emotional tie to, and you signed up for this. You signed up to be part of the system. So you're already gone. And this is again why I'm probably I could never date a man in law enforcement. But
you know what my biggest thing though is?
They think you're being like renegade. They think you're being mavericks. No.
Do you know what one of my biggest things is too though? The fact that they're both dating their partners, and you cliched. Listen, love trumps all and all this stuff, and I personally think that both Maria and Fiona are baddies. Good job. You don't know about Maria. I understand. I saw your face immediately. Fiona is a certified baddie.
Yes.
Okay?
That's not a question.
Maria has her place. She's shown up in certain times. Well, she remains to be seen, but the heart wants what the heart wants or whatever. But I'm also like, both of y'all?
Yeah.
It just gives...
Yeah. It gives, like, again, they're enraptured by the system and everything that it's in. They're like, they're attracted to people who are also bought into the system. Ugh. I just hate it all. Ugh. Okay. So, Rebel Alliance, yes. The infrastructure, the Empire, never. And I think them having the lack of imagination around that is like, it's so inherent. So why they can't be the Solulu to the Delulu that it surrounds Harlem.
And that is the title of this episode. The Solulu to the Delulu. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you, TikTok, for helping me get there. So, let's get into chapter 9. In chapter 9, we go from like as Robyn said, that like Amari hears Magnus's words and she's like, "You're right. I absolutely have the ability to do something, be the person behind the movements." And by joining up with Elsie and Jaden, they are actively moving on that. So she's like, let's start to investigate the strange blue light that I mentioned, that I saw during the dream meet. Like, we should get into that. Like, I'm sure that's a puzzle point for us. And Elsie's like, I got you. And this is why, like, Elsie's always showing it, but Elsie, the ride or dying, so heavy, and it's just like remarkable. Homegirl goes and gets her laptop again in a horror house. Ooh. Runs downstairs to the basement. No, goes upstairs to the attic. Gets her laptop, but rings that sucker back and is like, boom! Just slams it onto the ground with her dragon strength.
I had one thing about that though. I appreciated it and like ride or die, like you said, but like could she not have been like, hey, peekaboo, y'all got a broken laptop or
She's not about that play around and wait around life.
I said, ooh, Elsie got money.
It's done. And she got money. She ain't worried. For what? What am I worried about? I can get another laptop in 2 seconds. Girl, I've been calling up whiteboards in a matter of...
She looked at her laptop and said, I could find another you in a minute. Matter of fact.
Not a problem.
With delivery deluxe or whatever that thing is, it'll be here in a minute.
They had the whiteboard in nanoseconds. Like, a laptop? Are you crazy?
She good. She good.
And... once Elsie's like, I have a little needling and inkling of an idea of what this is, uses the laptop and is able to dig through her notes and show that it is actually anti-magic that Amari saw Dylan display during the dream meet. And from the intel that she did when the presentation with Director Focus, that she's not supposed to have access to, she's able to identify one new clue that she did not know before, which is that a certain researcher named Dr. J, who is the only surviving member of the team that was researching anti-magic, is the one person that they can talk to, and he is located in Atlanta. It's so funny because the Dr. J that I'm talking about is not the Dr. J you think it is. It's not him. And Jaden needed that to be clarified, and we'll talk about it. So, what do they do? Do they send him an email? Do they like set up an appointment? Do they like give him a call? No. Because Amari.
I was gonna say, not because Elsie wouldn't think of those things, but because Amari said.
In fact, those are the first things she's willing. Let's set this up.
Mm-hmm.
No. Where Elsie's willing to just slam down a laptop at any notice, Amari's willing to slam down her life at any notice.
And Magnus said, be the folks in the chair.
Don't leave.
Elsie said, oh, we found this out. Let's send something to Magnus and give them a starting point. Give them a jumping off point. Give them a place to... And no.
Absolutely not. Because if Amari's not doing it, is it getting done? Not in her head, it's not. So she's all too happy to make an open bargain with Peekaboo, a ghost she's only met in the past hour or two, mind you, who lives in a house of horrors where they've been able to do unimaginable suffering to people for kicks and giggles.
And her bestie... And whoa! No. She's making this open-ended thing for all of them.
All of them. It's not just, Amari, you're no. All three of y'all are part of this open bargain.
I don't know how
you
gonna pay me back, but you gonna pay me back. She ain't never. And you can't say no. That was Peekaboo's thing. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm asked for a favor, and you can't say no.
And Elsie and Jaden was trying to be like, "What you talking about?" And Amari's like, "He ain't talking about nothing." Every time I hear Peekaboo, I'm gonna make a reference. And so Amari feels like because she is the only one with agent training and she's the only one carrying a sun stick, she's got this in the bag. Don't even worry about it. She's got it. So Peekaboo gets her access to his mom's transporter. She uses it to get to a place nearby, Dr. Dre's last known location, his home address. And it's like in vicinity of a park. On her way of moving past the park and closer to the neighborhood where he lives, which is a nice neighborhood, she is nearly detained by a police officer. Don't nobody know she's out here on this street in the middle of the night besides Jaden, Peekaboo, and Elsie. Not her mama, not her brother, not Agent Magnus, not the Chamberlains. Don't nobody know.
And they are using basically AirPods.
Yeah. It feels having a friend in your ear as you walk in a neighborhood that you don't belong to feels very Trayvon Martin-esque. And I'm
glad I wasn't the only one that was picking that up.
And at least this is an actual police officer and not a freaking like neighborhood watch.
With her big hair, the scar on her face. Lord knows what she's looking like because she just came out of that like half burnt down house of horrors. Was just in a high speed chase. Lord knows her face all over the place because they done made them most wanted. To America most wanted.
And not even the fun most wanted with Miley Cyrus.
Beyonce. Nah.
No. And the officer low key was like, I know you from somewhere. Probably the freaking notice the FBI put out. Probably from that.
The APB that's out on my ass.
Right? She was over here talking crap in her head about the cap and sunglasses that they had on whenever they were riding in the freaking ride share. She ain't got nary a disguise piece on her body. She didn't even try.
Got Elsie in her ear being like, "You okay? Get out!
Don't engage! Don't engage, girl. What you gonna do from the freaking haunted house? I can't.
You don't have a transporter. You can't come get me.
You can't do nothing." And so she's able to finagle her way to that by luck because they get a sudden call elsewhere. And as soon as she freaking moves forward, she's on high alert. Now you're on high alert now she's on high alert. So she's aware when someone grabs her, she's got her sun stick ready to poke it on him. And that is when she realizes that she's talking to the one and only Lucas, the boy with the green eyes from the Dream Meet. And that's where we end the story so far.
I know we're all Team Amari and like we love her. She's great, I guess.
But does she love herself?
That's the question. That's the real question right there, though.
Do you, girl?
I love you, but do you love your? Do you? If you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen?
Hallelujah.
Okay, RuPaul Charleston tried to tell you. Whew, okay.
So end on that, but I want to get into Elsie's analytical mind and willingness to do what needs to be done is very admirable, and I just like the way her mind works.
Yeah.
Like I was like very scientific, like, and it is, but it's very analytical specifically, like ready to like takes it in the data and is like able to formulate like an analysis and build out a plan, build on what we have. And so that's when she's able to deduce from like, okay, I have this information only because I did this presentation. So if I follow this presentation train, oh man, I don't have access. I may have access to this. Like, she's just like able to like work through, able to figure out what anti-magic is, to give them a download in quick succession, and Amari and Jane are able to pick it up really easily because she makes it that easy, and that's just very admirable as a skill. But our girl Elsie is worth all that anyway, so we know this about her. I am glad to know that there are forbidden fields of study in this world, though I do, and anti-magic is one of them, though I do struggle to understand how someone with magic, like if you have magic, how can you control anti-magic?
You can't, which is why it goes back to Dylan is a child. And not only a child, it's a specific sort of child without the medulla, the oblongata. They have not formed. And
frontal cortex.
The whole frontal cortex is just soup, okay? And the boy has 3 brain cells rubbed together. 2 of those brain cells are on rage. And all of these adults are just like, I guess he's in charge. Because he was born with magic. Because immediately they did that thing. They discovered anti-magic, saw what happened, and the Bureau was like, oh no. Because we all have magic.
Also,
to be a part of the supernatural world means anti-magic is dangerous to you.
And I'm glad that they did, like, they took those notes. They're like, why did this happen? Oh, it's because everyone in that room had their magic activated. That's why. I hope they didn't bring any known worlders in to test it out, like, because that's some real messed up stuff.
I would be shocked if that wasn't. I wouldn't put it past part 2.
Yeah. But I also just like, when I first read this, because of how it doesn't make any sense logically to try to control anti-magic while being a magical person and like the top magician overall, so like really make it make sense, I was like, is he just using Amari's power that he stole from her to make the illusion that he is anti-magic? Because I was like, it's not adding up.
Yeah. I don't know if we get into it in the next chapter or not, but they kind of believe that I think Jaden says it, like, he doesn't actually have it. Researchers, it seems like anti-magic came out of that box. Do you know anything about it? This is bad if Jillian... Oh yeah, so Jaden says, this isn't adding up. If he really got power like that, why only show it to other magicians? If it was me and I'm trying to scare the supernatural world into meeting my alpha demands, I'm pulling out the scariest stuff. And then he goes, and then Elsie says, Amari says, it was just a dream. For all we know, Dylan can't actually create anti-magic in the real world, at least not yet. And Elsie's like, that has to be it. Because the only reason why she was even allowed to see that video was because of the presentation she was helping with. And it was meant to be a warning to newly promoted researchers who have earned top secret clearance. A warning, as in, don't mess with that. Don't even think about theoretically messing with that.
And we can assume that Dylan knows about it because of his top secret access granted to his father, who did not top secret access his computer at home. So his children were just doing whatever they wanted with information. The failure of the Van Helsings.
That boy has been failed every which way to Sunday. But also, again, continuing to be failed. Well, I guess he's not really putting any of these magicians in his confidence yet. Like, Cosmo would have been the one, but then he just took that man's magic.
Would he ever would have been? Because he never respected them.
He never respected them. Right. Yeah. But I'm like, we're at this point where, like, he's surrounded by, like, yes men. You know, when they talk about, like, you get to that level of, like, power, fame, whatever, and then everyone else's, like, ability to be is dependent on keeping you happy. So they're keeping you happy or keeping you stable or distracted or whatever. They're saying yes to you so that they can continue to be and prosper and to have proximity to power. We're at that point right now because there's no one being like, hey, yo, that anti-magic bomb is cute or whatever. But
But did they even know what it is?
Yeah, that too.
Restricted access and all that.
That's true.
I was gonna throw one out for Jaden for that whole Dr. J thing and thinking, because like I can feel him being from mostly like he's still embracing being a known worlder.
Mm-hmm.
So him being like, hey, another black man from the known world over here doing things, and it's like, nah, sorry, man, it's not the same guy.
Different guy. Though I would love to think that like Dr. J or like certain athletes being a part of the supernatural world, and they're like Laura's magical ability is like supernatural athletic ability or whatever, and then you think about the fact that like in the 90s Vince Carter put his whole arm through the hoop. Vince Carter's entire slam dunk contest might prove that man touched the crystal ball. Merlin, he's been touched by Merlin.
He touched that Space Jam ball.
Exactly. So, not a crazy leap. If you've seen some of the things that Dr. J has done on the floor, not a crazy leap to be like, oh, okay, I see. It's all making sense now.
I like it based on that, like, it's like if because like presumably he has some kind of research ability that's whatever. So like having like a known worlder celebrity persona, but being like a scientist in a lab in the magical world would be like real fun. So I saw the vision that Jaden was having. I'm just like, I'm sorry, man, that didn't work out for you, because that would have been really cool.
Yeah.
So we went on our host spiel about Amari and all of that. But I think the main thing I want to get to here, and I guess this is also my like prelude to my benching, is how much energy she's putting into things without thinking them through. And so like her citing her agent training while also doing things without thinking about it, like with a full agent's experience, and like that being her top of mind frame of thinking is thinking like an agent as she's doing this thing. She's still walking the streets as if she's not Amari Peters, magician on the APB list. She's not even walking around like that. So it's troubling that she's making these decisions without considering all the different layers to why she should and should not, like she's not weighing it out pro con, why I should do this, why I shouldn't do this before she makes her decision.
I think what's really interesting too is like what you just said about Jaden still like walking around with like known worlder like at the forefront of his mind. At some point that switch for Amari, and she's walking around with like the supernatural world at the forefront of her mind, in the sense that, and this is also partially like goes back to like the first episode that we did when we talked about Jaden not being recognized and like not being a part of the like most wanted, or being, you know, from outside being included in that group, is that I think too she's kind of thinking about it as like, I'm Amari Peters and people know me, and not as like a way in which that's like a good thing for her, but like in a very, not that she's like forgotten that she's a Black child in America, but like kind of forgotten what that means in the known world, like the dangers of that in the known world, separate from being Amari Peters. And again, I think it all just goes back to the fact that she has not had time to sit and process, and is like in like a trauma response, fight or flight type of thing. She's not thinking clearly at all, and she's not allowing the people that care about her to let her like to realize that she's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, to get through to her about it. Yeah. So that wraps up chapter 9. How do you feel about MVP? Who's your MVP?
I am giving it to Magnus for many reasons. One, because he's Magnus and he's here and he's on the page. It's important. Number 2, because of that kind of pep talk, and I even though it didn't stick with Amari, she didn't really, it touched her for a hot second. She said, I hear you. I hear what I want to hear. I could still be a part of it. You said I could still be a part of it. I'm going to choose to ignore that not being out in the field part of what you said, but you said I could still be a part of it. I think that was like in general, it was a lot of what she needed to hear to like keep her spirits up. I think that like showing that there are adults that still believe in her abilities, and that regardless of if she's doesn't have her magic or anything like that, she has proved herself to people, and she doesn't need to keep proving herself. And I think that was really what he was trying to like get to stick with her. It just didn't last. But that's not his fault.
That's not
on him.
He did his best.
He did his best.
Yeah, I think Magnus for like pointing out the value in not having to be in the field, like you're saying. But also I wanted to and also he named that like they need someone to have big picture thinking, and to I guess like the downfall of Amari's thinking, she's so hung up on the big picture she's not thinking about the smaller details in this moment the way she needs to. And I also MVP'd Magnus because he named the dream. He provided the understanding of what dream meets were in front of Quinton, so that Amari did not feel like she was hallucinating. And so, like, and I can only imagine how this conversation would have gone without Magnus there and without someone there to like tell them where that came from. If Quinton even like didn't remember it, like, would he be concerned about Amari? Would he be thinking she was hallucinating? Did he like right? So I really appreciate that Magnus was able to validate her experience for her, and so I wanted to give him his props for that. And then I also MVP Elsie because Ride or Die. That laptop,
that was
that, and then also just like not being scared to tap into her shared files with Director Focus, knowing that if Director Focus sees her poking around in there, she's about to be in some trouble. Like, I asked with it. I mean, she maybe because Director Focus feels like someone who's like understanding of what Elsie's journey is right now. But you know what I mean?
But you
like,
also don't know because Director Focus is in the bureau.
Mind control.
Right.
Yeah. So
she's taking a risk, but it was calculated risk. And yeah, Elsie is that girl. Who are we benching?
I mean, I told you, prelude to my benching, it's Amari. Because girl.
Don't
nobody know. And now I know about how my mom and them felt. Because like I've been doing stuff. I was a wanderer. I wasn't really a wanderer. I was a stick-arounder. My mom would be in a store. I would see a magazine rack or some books. That's where I'm going to be.
Me too.
It's either that or candy. It's either candy, snacks, or some books in the magazine. That's where I be.
I got lost because I wasn't keeping up.
Right. But I'm like, I know where I am. And I know that I am where you last saw me at. If you can't find me, that's on you. But I didn't wander off nowhere. You wandered off without checking if I was with you. And that's not a me problem.
That's a you problem. My problem was that when I realized that everyone was gone, I would try to find them.
Right. Then it's like, wait a minute.
And then I did wander off.
It's been like 10 minutes. 15?
Yeah, I just, like, Amari, honey, child, sweetie, my dear.
Don't nobody know where you are.
You just found out
like
my
mom would be like, why? We did not know where you were. And I'm like, I was where you left me. Amari? Didn't nobody leave Amari here?
They had one transporter. She also knew that boy had been following her because she saw him at the tour and was like, how did he? And then saw him disappear. And then saw him disappear.
And she ain't said nothing to nobody about it. Nobody knows about this boy besides her. She didn't even mention him in the dream meet or at the mansion. She didn't tell them. Amari, girl, I know you want so badly to stand up in your full might as a junior agent with a star, part of the Star Club and all of that.
Hey, child.
Babes, this ain't the way.
Ooh. And I'm sorry, not to victim blame. It's not victim blaming, but it's also just like, know where you're at. You don't got no magic. You got a stun stick. Your mama said 2 minutes ago, like 3, I'm gonna give you 3 hours. Your mama said, when I get my memories back, I don't want nothing to have happened to none of y'all because y'all gonna have watched out for each other.
Let Quinton, let Elsie, let Jaden watch out for you. Each one of them said, hey girl, and you said, nah, I got it.
And then, because this is a spoiler-heavy podcast, the person who actually is the most impacted by Peekaboo's little shenanigans and favor is Jaden. So you gonna go do what you want, and then I am picking up
signing people up for things, and you don't just wave it away. Like, I'm not. It's good. I can't. Like, you can't. Look, you only got so many times to make me doubt you as a friend.
She's so lucky. She cute like a tree. She is so lucky. I don't know. Trees don't keep you warm at night. Trees don't keep you safe
Baby
from...
Groot can only do so much for me. I'm sorry. Baby Groot, Tyler Groot was running around and freaking Rocket Raccoon was having...
I'm saying, look, trees don't...
You ain't about to get me.
Trees only do so much when you try to, you know, stay safe from a haunting. Thank you for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 10 through 12. Want to join us live? Become a B&C baddie and join our live recordings on Sundays at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes they change, but we let you know. As soon as we know, we let you know.
You'll get noticed.
You'll get a notification.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. Until next time.